Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me this afternoon to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers and the South Carolina Gamecocks in Week 5 action is my man, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. It's college football at its highest level. We're in
Yes,
the
it
South,
is.
baby.
Yeah, yes, it is. And what a matchup we have here with the Volunteers and the Gamecocks. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed the video, once again, like, comment, share, and subscribe. We go live each and every single week on Facebook and YouTube. And if you enjoyed podcast, well, you are indeed in luck. We have a podcast goes out every single week on any of the major streaming platforms you enjoy, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, whichever one is your favorite. You can find us on there, once again, each and every single week. Game previews, legends interviews, talking about some of the game's greatest players, coaches, and just games in general. Once again, go check us out over there. All right, well, let's get into it. SEC action once again, going with Tennessee and South Carolina. Let's start with the Volunteers and what they've been up to this year. So Tennessee currently ranked number 21 in the AP Top 25, coming off of a big win last week against the UTSA Roadrunners. Have had a really good year so far, just one blemish, and that is against the Florida Gators, where they lost 29-16. Now, looking at this Tennessee team, you look at them, and obviously your eyes immediately go to the quarterback position with Joe Milton III, and man, he has looked electric so far this season. 80 of 128 for 925 yards, 8 TDs, and 1 INT. So far has looked really good, and this is going to be a quarterback battle unlike any that we have ever seen. Keeping it going with this Tennessee squad, obviously they've looked really good on the offensive side of the ball. Scored 45 points against UTSA, 30 against Austin Peay, 49 against Virginia. Like I said, that one blemish against Florida, they only put up 16. But I think that they are going to be coming in with a vengeance. Obviously, it's going to be led by Joe Milton III and what he's been up to. But looking at Tennessee, Dylan Sampson could have a really good day. Against Virginia, he put 4 touchdowns on just 4 touchdowns against Virginia, but against Austin Peay, he had only 4 carries there. Didn't play against Florida, but he has been really good this year and kind of a secret weapon. When obviously you look at Tennessee, you look at just Joe Milton, you think that's really the offense. They got some other guys on there as well. I think that Tennessee, they've looked very good all in all. Look at the rest of their receiving core. You've got Ramel Keaton. You got Brew McCoy. Squirrel White, of course, putting in some work. So I think on offense, they've looked really well. Defense side of the ball, you got some dogs as well with Aaron Beasley at the linebacking spot. Of course, you have sack leader Tyler Barron, who's already put up 4 on the year. And that's the thing with Tennessee, Vincent. They have got 16 sacks so far in a very young season, very short amount of time, however you want to say it. They have looked really dominant on the line. So I think for Tennessee, you just got to go in there, just be comfortable, be relaxed, and do what you've been doing. Air the ball out, run it a little bit. And I think, man, overall, Tennessee is poised for a really good season once again. I want to hear your thoughts, though. How can the Volunteers pick up win in this game?
Well, you look at it, Tennessee, and you think about this. You mentioned just a few seconds ago, it's a quarterback battle. You got 2 quarterbacks that a lot of people at the beginning of the season, what were they going to place in the 2024 NFL draft? I look at Joe Milton. This is a game that he can make all the Volunteer Nation forget about the Florida game. Tennessee is averaging 463 yards, 35 points on the Joe Milton. And you think about last week, South Carolina defense got lit up by Will Rogers of Mississippi State for 487 yards. But the key of it is Joe Milton didn't play well against Florida in Tennessee's biggest game of the year. This game right here is very important for Tennessee simply because if they have an impressive win over South Carolina, then everybody are going to say maybe they're back in the conversation of being a top 10 team. Maybe they're back in the conversation of being that second team in the SEC East behind Georgia. It is a big, huge game for Joe Milton in Tennessee, and I call it a money game. If Joe Milton plays well, then maybe the conversation, him being back in the first round of the NFL draft in 2024. Then you're looking at the Tennessee defense. It hasn't played bad this year. Right now, Aaron Beasley is one of the top linebackers in the country. 7.5 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss on the year, 2.5 sacks. And then Tyler Barron is one of the best D linemen that we're not talking about here on the college level. He's got 4.5 tackles for loss. Then he's got 3 tackles for loss, and he's got 4.5 sacks on the year. So Tennessee has a good defensive line that can get after Spencer Rattler, quarterback from South Carolina, because Tennessee has 16 sacks, which is 3rd in the country. But for me, it's a Joe Milton game. Make everybody forget about the Florida game and how bad Tennessee played. You win this game convincingly over South Carolina. You have convincing stats. You're back in the conversation nationally as one of the best teams in the country.
Yes, sir. We'll see what Tennessee can do. Flipping over to the Gamecocks, though. Looking, of course, number 1 pick, or potential number 1 pick, if you look at him, Spencer Rattler, who has continued to have success in South Carolina. So far in the year, 95 completions and 128 attempts. Good for 74% completion percentage, over 1,000 yards on the year, 7 touchdowns, only 2 INTs. But Vincent, the one thing that they're going to have to figure out this game, he's been sacked 16 times on the year. Got to get that figured out if you want to win this ball game. Running game, your main guy you're going to be looking at is Mario Anderson, who's got 34 carries for 129 yards. Not the greatest in terms of you look at a running attack in terms of bounce attack. We all know that South Carolina definitely relies on the deep ball and throwing the ball a lot more. Receiving core, that's where your bread and butter's at. Xavier Legette is one of, if not one of the best wide receivers in the country right now. 27 grabs, 556, and he's gotten 3 touchdowns as well. Behind him is Eddie Lewis, 9 grabs for 120, and a bunch of other guys that are getting around that 100-yard plateau on the year. But like you mentioned, Vincent, the defense is really what's kind of been just the soft spot for South Carolina this year in terms of how they've lost games and the points they've allowed and given up. Week 1 against North Carolina, you gave up 31. You gave up 21 points to Furman. You lost, obviously, to Georgia 24-14. And then last week versus Mississippi State, gave up 30 points as well. So the defense has not really been able to gel quite yet. If you want to beat Tennessee, if you want to stop the deep ball of Joe Milton, this is where you have to shine. You have to get things going. Looking at some of their key players, you got Debo Williams leading on the team in tackles with 31. Behind him is Jalen Kilgore. Now, when you look at sacks, TJ Sanders over there at the defensive tackle position, leading your squad with 3. He has 3 of the 8 sacks on the season. In terms of interceptions, you got 4 on the year from a bunch of guys, and you have 16 passes defended. You're going to have to get a whole lot more of those if you want to win this game, I think, this upcoming Saturday. Mr. Turner, your thoughts on South Carolina?
Well, basically, when you think about this South Carolina-Tennessee game, you got to think about Spencer Rattler. Let's go back to last year where Tennessee still had a chance to get in the college football playoffs. What did Spencer Rattler do last year against Tennessee? 438 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 63-38 victory. Then you're looking at South Carolina this year. Make no bones, and the truth of it is they didn't have Spencer Rattler. We might be looking at an 0-4 football team. You talk about the offensive line, it's not being that well. How many times you said he'd been sacked? 16, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, think about this. I've gained a lot of respect for Spencer Rattler over the last 2 years, simply because he was at Oklahoma. He was the number 1 quarterback coming out in 2019, lost his job in his 3rd year there as a quarterback, and he was winning. Granted, OU made a decision to go with Caleb Williams. It worked out for him, worked out for head coach Lincoln Riley. But Spencer Rattler got kind of left in the shuffle. And everybody on the national stage, I remember certain pundits coming out saying, he's a problem kid. He might be entitlement. But after the season was over, I was very surprised Spencer Rattler chose South Carolina. He knew he wasn't going to win at a high level coming at South Carolina. We weren't going to talk about him in the national championship aspirations being on the team. But what I like about him, he went there last year. In the end of the year, he had big wins over Tennessee and Clemson. 2 teams that still had a chance of playing the college football playoffs. Then he comes into this season, and let's face reality here. The truth, he had Georgia on the ropes at halftime. Gamecocks up 14-3. And he played pretty well. So basically, this football game is going to come down very simple. As you said, the quarterback play, Logan. Joe Milton, the pressure is on him with Tennessee. Spencer Rattler, he's playing with house money. You know, South Carolina, they 2-2 on the year. They've had 2 big wins. They've lost to 2 teams, North Carolina and Georgia. They're still up there in the national conversation and playing in the college football playoffs. But Spencer Rattler still played at a high level, man. Man, 1,200, 42 yards pass and 7 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and he throws a beautiful ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Xavier Leggett has been one of the best receivers in the country. Woo! 27 receptions, 556 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alshon Jeffries, too. Can we say that at South Carolina? So it comes down to me, the quarterbacks. Which quarterback plays well? If South Carolina is able to protect Spencer Rattler, because Tennessee is third in the nation in sacks. Defensively, they got 16 sacks on the year. Then Tennessee might be in for some trouble. And Joe Milton, I'm going to say it one more time. I know we talked about Tennessee. This is your redemption game, my brother. The Florida game, you did not play well. We talk about your big arm. That's all great. You can throw the ball 90 yards down the field, but I'm seeing you. And I want you to be like Hendon Hooker. When are you going to get a big win? This is a win right here against a quarterback in Spencer Rattler, who's going to be a first-round draft pick in the 2024 NFL draft. This can go a long way for the Tennessee Volunteers. But South Carolina is all about it. If you keep Spencer Rattler healthy and keep him up, he can hurt you. And South Carolina is going to be a problem on Saturday night.
Yes, sir. My final score in this ball game, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers getting the W in this one. Give me Tennessee 33 and give me South Carolina 21. Mr. Turner, what's your final score for this game? Who's getting the win?
I like that pick, man. I like that score. I'm going to agree with you to a certain extent.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a little closer. I think Tennessee 35, South Carolina 28. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Tennessee defense is going to make some plays. But both quarterbacks are going to play at a high level on Saturday evening in Knoxville.
Yes, sir. And we're looking forward to it this upcoming Saturday. But most importantly, we want to hear from you, though, our fans. What is your preview like for this game? Who's going to be getting the win? Is it going to be Tennessee? Is it going to be South Carolina? Which quarterback is going to have the better day? Once again, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, appreciate you as always coming on talking some college football with me. Week 5 action. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Enjoy the rest of your